This video is somehow brought to you by Robo-Toys, despite my shitty opinions. Don't forget to use the code DrLockdown 10% off at the checkout, but please, don't use it on this figure. Please don't. Please don't. In all my years of collecting, I have never once come across a figure that has been this sad. So many years of memories, not just thrown away, but also shit upon. And to many, expressing grief isn't justified. You can't express your frustrations because apparently it is morally wrong to do so. How do we end up here? How the actual did we end up here? This toy blows. Cut that intro out of here. I'm not in the mood for it. It's been a while since I've discussed it on this channel, so you may not be aware of it, but I've always had a soft spot for high-quality knockoffs. They were my ticket back into the franchise from a time when I wasn't doing that well financially. Plus, it allowed me to purchase figures that I couldn't get my hands on normally due to shoddy distribution within Australia. And over the years, Weijiang has remained the king of KOs with the highest quality of figures released. However, in recent years, the quality has begun to slip a bit. The plastic quality across the board has gotten slightly weaker, and there have been reports of several figures yellowing, such as Hide Shadow, their upscaled version of Studio Series Blackhouse. And I'm not talking yellowing over a period of years, I'm talking over a period of weeks, which, let's be real here, is a bit ridiculous. But that was just a prelude for what was to come, because now we get to the absolute bottom of the level that they are capable of. I mean, over the years, we've had some misses like Scorn, that wasn't a very good one, but there's never truly been anything this bad. We need to get to the bottom of this and find out why this figure sucks as much as it does. So, greetings Cybertronians, I'm DrLockdown, and today's, it's not really a diagnosis, it's more putting a patient out of its misery, pertains to Weijiang Black Apple W8606 Thunder Leader, also known as oversized MPM4 Optimus Prime. Picture this, the year is 2017, it's been 10 years since the first live-action film graced our screens, whether gracefully or not. A lot has happened to the franchise since then, and many of the fans who grew up with the movies want premium versions of their favourite characters. Animated fans too, given the time frame, but who the f*** cares about animated? That was a rhetorical question. Of course people give a f***. I give a f***, a very big f***. But moving on, two announcements drop on social media. Movie Masterpiece 3 Bumblebee and Movie Masterpiece 4 Optimus Prime. Right out the gate, Bumblebee was a very strong start, with expertly crafted engineering and paintwork, and a very solid feel to him. With this release, people instantly got hyped for the line to come, but then a terrible curse befell it, one that would plunge its fate into darkness for years to come. The line went to shit. Optimus Prime was the first to present this issue, with a woefully over-engineered transformation and a robot mode that wasn't representative of the Masterpiece line. Then Barricade, who was allegedly fine engineering-wise, was decidedly lacking in the looks department. Ironhide's release was rushed to make way for Volkswagen Bumblebees, and as a result many had issues with the chest engineering. Then said Bumblebee was barely a masterpiece at all, acting more like a leader and a half, a very bad leader and a half. The curse concluded at roughly the Megatron mark, once again acting more like a larger leader than a true masterpiece figure. It was only at this point that figures truly started becoming more premium, but by this point the damage was already done. You can still find MPM Starscream in American stores for roughly 50 freedom bucks these days, a far cry from the initial price point. So where does this problem derive from? Well, two primary sources. The first is rushing to meet film deadlines, which thankfully seems to have eased off in recent years, probably because we haven't had a Transformers movie to coincide with. The second, however, is far more nefarious. Whether you find the recent G1 Masterpiece figures good or not, and I certainly fall into the latter category, it's impossible to deny that they are at least pushing the limits of Transformers engineering in order to deliver the most premium products possible. Whether you believe they truly succeed in that category is beside the point. These are high-end collectibles. The Movie Masterpiece figures, however, are different. Many more monetary restrictions are placed on them in order to fit into the traditional retail market system. It's incredibly easy to see this in the visual department. They simply don't have the fit and finish that other Masterpiece figures have. It's not particularly fair to compare an official product to an unlicensed one, but compare Hasbro's work to the likes of Unique Toys and and you can immediately tell the difference in design philosophy. So unfortunately for movie fans with a bucket load of cash to spend, there really aren't that many options for an original trilogy Optimus Prime that truly reaches the highest mark. The Bumblebee movie and even the two Night-based films appear to be getting much more attention, but have no fear, apparently Weijiang is here to save the day. These guys have an ace up their sleeve, Black Apple. Now this guy doesn't work on every Weijiang release, but when he does, his improvements to the molds are incredible, especially when it comes to the visual department. He actually has his roots in official Transformers design, providing the improvements to Takara's Buster Optimus Prime figure based on the 2009 Leader Class version. In fact, ironically, this particular design appears to have been in part based on this very same figure. So given that he knows this mold inside out, it should be an easy job. Right? Well, in vehicle mode, I can see what they were trying to do, but honestly, this feels like a downgrade from the original figure. And I'm not talking about the Takara movie masterpiece, oh no, I'm talking about the original 2009 figure. There are elements to like here, don't get me wrong, but none of those are in relation to the engineering. Pretty much the best thing about this mode is the paintwork. The flames are all on show, with all 3 levels of detail. The flames themselves, the yellow fade, and the pinstripe outline that really makes them pop. It's a complicated design that not many figures really give a shot, but when they do, it looks really stunning. It's visible practically everywhere, and this is where most of the paint budget went. You do get a few specks of silver here and there, but I appreciate that they were somewhat reserved with picking out the extra details, since here that's not the main focus. Where the silver and gunmetal does get a chance to shine though, it's done really well. The windows are done quite well as well. On the original, they had this really stupid circuit detail that looked incredibly out of place. Here they've tinted the windows, so you can still see it, but it's not as ridiculous. It creates the same effect as the Mecha Live detail that came before it. A nice thing to have, but not too ridiculous, so it doesn't overtake the design. And those are the only 2 mainly positive things I have to say. Pretty short list, huh? Yeah, there are other good things about this figure, but everything else is either a downgrade from what came before or somehow cursed in some way. For example, take a look at the chrome. Looks lovely, right? It's incredibly shiny and used in a way that really gives it a premium feel. Well, plot twist, all the chrome is placed on clear plastic. Why? Given that many of these elements are often incorporated heavily into the transformation, it puts immense stress on the plastic, and as such, many of the parts have a tendency to break off. Don't believe me? It happened. I even tried gluing this piece back on, but it just didn't work. There's too much stress on this piece, so once it breaks off, that's it. Not that it ever fit in place properly. These are supposed to clip fully in together, but given the chrome they applied, the tolerances are way too tight. And if you thought that application of chrome was stupid, look at the bumper. Yes, this does look lovely, but remember, this is using the same transformation as the Leader Prime. As such, this becomes the bottom of the feet. Why the would you put easily chippable chrome here when you know it's going to be the part that has the most contact with the ground? Oh, hello ground, and hello falling bowl of petunias. There's a reason the Leader Class version didn't add that much paint. It was a deliberate design decision that the toy designers chose, so as to make the paint solidity work properly. At least the original movie masterpiece only went with silver, a color that sticks in place much better. It's not even done that well. Take a look at the parts above the windows, which I still don't know the names of. I'm surprised no one's told me in the comments on the last video. You can see that it's been applied in a rushed manner, causing all sorts of bubbles and imperfections. On a run-of-the-mill KO, this would have been fine, but on a prestigious Weijiang figure, this is far from the norm, doubly so on a masterpiece-alike release. See, there are positives with this figure, but everything surrounding the positives just bring them down. The mechanical detail is almost as good as the 2009 Leader, which is still pretty high level, but when surrounded by all these extra panel lines, it just becomes lost in a sea of messy kibble. The back sections with the extra storage compartments look lovely, but these come at the cost of some of the worst integrated gun accessories I've ever seen. The scaffolding at the back is a pretty nice touch, but it still pales in comparison to the incredibly clean original 2009 version. There are plenty of cool elements, but they're all cursed with lackluster engineering and frustrating design choices. The only other element that escapes this is the addition of the antennae at the front, something unique to this particular KO. Is that enough to justify buying this figure over any others? No, but let's be real here, none of the versions of this mold are really worth it. Beyond that, this figure can't roll for shit. I realize that this isn't the most important element of a Transformer, but on top of everything else, it's another shitty thing. And in the end, that's really what brings this figure down. The core is solid. It's the same core that we've seen and loved before, but the issues surrounding it just end up being a detriment to the design as a whole. Ultimately, such irks me because it's so close to being good, but just falls short. If anything, how close it gets pisses me off even more.
Mate, are you sure you should be so harsh on the figure this time?
I'm not really in the mood for this right now.
Look, I'm not trying to be comic relief this episode, dinosaur. I'm just trying to explain.
Just shut up and let me finish the review, okay? Look, my point is, this to me isn't impressive. For a masterpiece figure, it really lacks the wow factor that other vehicle modes have. There's nothing really astonishing given the line and the price point, whereas the original had that in spades. Also doesn't help that they neutered the smokestacks on an adult collectible, and the original had longer ones, albeit rubber ones. Pathetic, man. Pathetic. Anyway, size-wise, it's a smidge bigger than the original leader, although it doesn't particularly feel as solid as such. All the panels barely hold together and require a lot of massaging to line everything up. Even after getting everything in the right position, it really isn't worth it. Ultimately, this alt mode does look pretty nice, but structurally there are a lot of things that are just lacking. Personally, this leaves me incredibly frustrated, but from an analytical standpoint, I guess it's just, nothing special to be honest. But that's not where this figure shines in its shittiness. Oh no. This is where things take a turn for the decidedly worse, and Jesus Christ. If ever there were a transformation I was dreading filming, this would be it. Oh, wow! The audio completely got f***ed on that one! I just lost the audio as I finished transforming it, and I'm not doing it again, f*** you! Okay, full disclosure, I almost didn't include the transformation in this video because I thought it would take up way too much time, and I think it will still take up a substantial chunk of the video. So for those who want to see it and aren't watching this via the premiere, there's a timestamp, although it'll already be in the description as well, but there you go. But this is gonna be a long transformation because, well, putting it simply, although I'll go into detail later on, they've taken the base simple transformation from the leader and f***ed with it 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 and f***ed with it. It is a mess, a shit show. The second worst transformation I have ever handled. But enough beating around the bush, let's give this a shot, shall we? First thing you want to do is gently move the smokestacks aside just so you got some space and oh, that broke too. Oh dear. Oh dear. I wasn't joking when I said these were bullshit. Next thing you want to do is bring these bits out on the side, because that will hopefully open up a few things here and there. Not sure how though. Take these side panels and disconnect them. Yoink. You can then untab these from the sides. Then after disconnecting the back parts here, you can actually take these guns out. And I'm not going to bother showing you how to transform these things because I flat out can't. I don't know how they work. I'm sorry. You take these, fold that in, and that just sits like that so that you've got those two facing upwards for later. Take the back panel and fold it down. Separate the whole thing like you did with the leader class. The legs transform slightly differently, but it's roughly the same as the leader. You just remove these bits from the side, separate the whole leg section, fold in the feet as you did on the leader class version. You can't fold the feet up until that's in place though, so it's pretty simple. Untab and open the wheel down, and then come back and open up this back panel here, which was apparently something on the leader class version, but I completely missed it. Then you can open up this, collapse this entire section into the side, and then collapse that over the top. So yeah, slight refinement, I guess. And when that's done, you can take the antenna at the back and fold it in there, so it just remains on the back there. And that was the easy part. This is where things take a turn for the worse. You want to rotate the legs down so that at least you've got some sense of cohesiveness. You use these double hinges at the back here to rotate the backpack down. Basically, you take these parts around and they fold around like so. Then you bring this down and rotate the whole thing together, and that'll work for later. Might as well do this back panel now. Fold it up, rotate it around, bring it down, and fold these back panels out to the sides. That has to be a Weijiang edition. That seems completely pointless. These are a bit easier. You grab the side panels out here, and that's the only thing that's easier than the original. Everything else is a nightmare. You want to somehow get these panels unhooked from the sides here, and separate this whole section so that this whole thing separates up there. Oh god, what a nightmare. You can just move these panels down so we got some space and move the matrix chamber into there. Oh, and by the way, there's a matrix chamber inside there with the die-cast matrix, but I'm going to leave that there because it's impossible to get this thing out of the way. Anyway, you rotate these out of the way just for later. Take these panels and rotate them into place. Rotate the panels out of the way so that you don't have to worry about them later. Fold that section out, and then you can accordion this whole section into itself somehow, which looks like a mess and is impossible to show on camera. Eventually, the whole thing folds in on itself like that and back like that. End result should look like this. I didn't know if this was going to work on camera because it's a nightmare, but I guess it's kind of working. Hooray! I guess while we're here, you can bring out these sections here so that we don't have to worry about them later. Rotate this entire section around the back so that we got that in place. Clamp the whole section together with that. Come to the pelvis, rotate that bit in place along with those two side panels. Rotate these inward a little bit down off that so that you can use the sliding rails to separate them. Why the f are they using sliding rails? I hate these. Much like the leader, you bring these parts down and pop them out like so. You can just leave them there for now, we'll clip them in later. Use the double hinges to fold these panels back into the torso. Take this panel here and fold it out on both sides. Fold in, fold up, fold around, which is a completely pointless bunch of steps because they could have just been incorporated into the arms like the original. And then finally everything comes down and you can sort of peg it in place with these side panels, whilst also being careful to keep these up, although you're not going to be able to keep it up because it's a nightmare to transform. Look, I can't do that on camera. But basically, these two peg into there and they keep everything locked in place. And then you bring these around so they just sit there. I did tell you it was a nightmare to transform this thing, and I was kind of tempted not to show it. Finally, got a peg there and a slot there. And that locks everything together somehow. They should click into place, which is kind of stressing the plastic. Because of course it is. And finally, you are almost there. Almost there. Take this part and rotate it around and up and through all the parts that it does. Eventually, you'll get it up there, and that part can fold in. Duh. I know I'm doing a job of showing how the transformation works, but this isn't meant to be an instruction manual. Go watch Go for that. This is meant to show the pain of having to do it. Rotate this section around, pull it up until you hear a nice solid click. Come on, click. There we go. Fold it in, fold it around, and then this panel on this side comes around and locks it into place like so. The one part of the transformation I actually love, that is an awesome transformation. Keeps these panels out of the way and working. Bloody brilliant. No, everything else had to be awful. And then you take these panels around and somehow get them into there. They don't peg in, they just sit there, which is stupid. And these panels, I don't know where they're supposed to peg. They're supposed to peg somewhere, but I can never figure it out, so I usually just leave them there. You take this panel, rotate it around, rotate it to the side, push it up, open up this, somehow get past the clearance issues and rotate the whole thing around, and then push back in on itself and clip it together. And then somewhere along the way, it's supposed to peg in, but I don't know, and at this point, I just don't care. I really don't care. I just want this done. It's a ruddy nightmare of a transformation, and I can't anymore. Enough is enough. I've just had it with this thing. Oh yeah, and one last thing. This section rotates around so that it can remain free and pushed in like that. And you can also push it in like so and get it stuck in there. There's a locking mechanism. It's difficult to show on camera. You just kind of gotta take my word for it. Because at this stage, I am done. I am happy to show transformations on camera. But not to this extent. When something is this much of a pain, that's it. Oh look, I've cut myself during the transformation. Jesus Christ. Oh great, I'm in a sweat now, and that was a nightmare, and I never want to do it again, and the good news is I never have to do it again. That was horrid. Absolutely horrid.
Now, before we move on to the robot mode, I think it's important that I elaborate on why this transformation is a complete and utter failure. It's not just one thing that completely ruins everything. There are so many angles that this thing has issues with. On a base level, it's completely over-engineered. Many people defend this god-awful bullshit by claiming it elevates the puzzle aspect of the figure, and honestly, that gives me the shits. You take the original 2009 Optimus Prime design, and yes, it definitely is a puzzle. Each part dances around the figure, and there are several aha moments to keep you entertained. This, dear fellows, is decidedly not such a thing on Thunder Leader. You have to deal with pieces with no clear start and stop areas, tolerance issues that make breakages more common, clearance issues that, well, do the same thing, and many frustrating moments that actively work against your fingers. This isn't a puzzle, this is a wrestling match. But that's just the surface level. When you get to the alleged reason why, it gets even worse. So, as far as I know, this has never been 100% confirmed by the designers, but word on the street is they used previous prototypes for the original 2009 mold and then retooled it into the masterpiece figure that we saw on shelves. This makes sense given the way many toys are designed. Often a team will design a fully engineered toy, then slowly work their way backwards in order to fit it into the budget. This isn't always the case, but it is quite common. And if this is true, which I do believe it is, then the entire philosophy of this figure is wrong. 2009 engineering is antiquated. We've long since moved beyond such panelly transformations. Already the 2009 leader is on the cusp of being too complex, and it's that restraint that makes him a true masterpiece of engineering. To take that perfect balance and throw it on the ground only to add bullshit extra steps for accuracy that don't even stand that high above the original, it's baffling. And Jesus Christ, it gets worse. It would have been bad enough if we were reviewing the original movie masterpiece, Takara version, but we are reviewing a supposedly improved KO of such. Except it's not improved in this instance. It's even worse! Now, Black Apple does make things more visually cohesive, however, from what I've seen, he does have a tendency to sacrifice the integrity of the design for the sake of the aesthetic. This isn't something I've just noticed through photos online either. I love MO1 Commander, but looking back, the new shoulder panels are pretty flimsy and look rather clunky. Their transformation isn't ideal either, involving some pretty finicky tolerances. Not to say I dislike the figure as a whole, though, it's still one of my favorite KOs of all time, a testament to what bootlegging can do for an already great toy. The problem with Thunder Leader, however, is that Black Apple, through his supposed improvements, makes the transformation infinitely worse. The pseudo Buster Prime throwback style cannons end up being way more trouble than they're worth, with virtually no clear start and end points for any of the pieces. And then you take the backpack and, oh dear, it wasn't perfect on the leader in both visual and solidity departments, but it was functional and didn't require a rocket science degree to figure out. Then the MPM takes it, and through its commitment to the on-screen model, it overcomplicates it to a ridiculous degree. Unfortunately though, due to budget limitations, the accuracy still isn't perfect. So Black Apple takes it even further, making it even worse. That's ultimately what's wrong with this transformation. You've got an immensely solid core that's on the cusp of overcomplication, but just holds back enough. Then you add all this bullshit on top of that, and it ruins the perfect balance. But apparently that's not enough. Then Weijiang and Black Apple add even more useless steps that turn this into an absolute shit show. It's a failure on so many levels, and do you know what the end result is? So I like complex transformations that provide something unique. The amount of steps isn't an issue for me, provided that everything has a clear start and stop area, and ultimately it has to be fun. Go too far, and it stops being fun. But even then, I can still praise figures for aspects beyond that. But a fun transformation in my book is one of the paramount elements I look for in any action figure relating to the Transformers franchise. Now, what happens when you go beyond the point of too far? Beyond the point of no return? What happens when you go so far into the bullshit zone that you forego any sense of engineering maturity and push it completely into accuracy territory without care? And I'm not just talking MP44, I'm talking beyond that. Well, this is the result. I cannot remember this transformation at all. Here's the basic cycle. I'll want to transform Thunder Leader to figure out some criticism in relation to a certain mode, and oh, I've forgotten how to do it. So I'll look up a video, which itself takes roughly half an hour, since this thing is squarely in the bullshit zone. So alright, I've got it in the desired mode. Now turn it back, nope. I've already forgotten! This transformation is so bullshit that my mind physically cannot retain the information presented. People seem to shit on the original for being way too complex, yet somehow movie masterpiece Optimus Prime gets a pass because he's screen accurate. No! No, sir! If I'm going to shit on MP44 for being over-engineered, I'm going to do the exact same for both MPM4 and Weijiang Thunder Leader. This right here is a failure of a transformation. Legitimately, this is the second worst transformation I have ever come across, only beaten out by Alien Attack Farage, due to its weak plastic and insistence on small parts. This isn't polishing a turd, it's adding upgrade parts to it with horrid plastic for no discernible reason. And ultimately, this is done for the same reason current Masterpiece toys have been given equally bullshit transformations. Screen accuracy! How it looks on a shelf supersedes any and all tactile factors. I suppose the sheer audacity of a decision is commendable, but what's the end result? Does the accuracy ultimately succeed in the end? No, the hell no it doesn't. But first, there are a few things to praise about this robot mode. It's a short list again, but hey, every pile of shit has its good points. Two main positives: paint and sculpt work, much like the vehicle mode. The latter is mostly the results of Hasbro's work, not Weijiang's or Black Apple's, but it really does look amazing, aside from a few cluttered areas that we'll get to. Beyond that, the paint is stunning. Unlike the leader class version, a lot of new applications are revealed in this mode. The thighs are done absolutely stunningly with beautiful rust effects that really place this thing squarely in the forest battle. And again, massive props to tinting the windows, making the gaudy chest details seem much more reserved. These go from almost KO looking to being properly masterpiece styled, which is ironic given this is actually a KO. And even the parts that aren't painted still look amazing thanks to the plastic they chose. Unfortunately, said plastic choices cause many of the issues with this figure. The plastic looks amazing, but from a structural standpoint, it can get Yep, positivity time over, boys. Let's get into why this figure sucks, donkey dick. Out of all the figures I own, this has to be the weirdest example of a dichotomy between awesome and terrible materials. The die-cast metal, which is practically everywhere on this thing, is incredibly sturdy, and the plastic that the gunmetal is painted onto is also pretty damn good. It's roughly a quarter step above what you'd expect from an official mainline Transformer, and yes, the decision to compare it to such is deliberate because actual Masterpiece has been skimping on plastic quality as of late. See MP Hound for details.
Curse you!
The problem, however, lies in the reds and blues. Both of these feel incredibly cheap and flimsy. They thankfully aren't completely brittle, but they are fragile enough that you'll have to be incredibly delicate with transforming the thing. I understand that for a masterpiece design such as this, you're not meant to be as ham-fisted as you are with an average deluxe. But regardless of what kind of transformer you're dealing with, it should at least be fun to transform and handle. And I'm sorry, the plastic quality just doesn't lend itself to that. It's teetering on the edge of Alien Attack Farage levels, although not quite as bad. And that's ignoring the aforementioned choice of clear plastic under the chrome details, which is again baffling. And before you say, well, that's to be expected from a KO, no, not from a Weijiang one. Every Weijiang figure I've looked at has had incredibly chunky and solid plastic. This really is a first for them. And sure, the figure is only $170, so some sacrifices are going to be made at that price, but to this extent, this is too far. Not that it costs $170 anymore, as this has now somehow become incredibly sought after. I'ma tell you, the internet is pretty stupid sometimes.
Ah, well, you see, that has a reason. That's because...
And yes, it was for the sake of the visual aspect, but those visuals quickly become in the arse when the proportions are Much like the transformation, this isn't entirely Weijiang's fault. They're trying to improve an already figure, and this is likely the best they could do given the circumstances. Either way though, take a look at that chest. What the happened here? It's as if there's no definition, it's just a giant cube with limbs sticking out of it. The windows are way too wide apart thanks to the choice to shift from double hinges to sliding rails. Pretty pathetic decision if you ask me. The side windows are comically oversized in an effort to give them more definition from the somewhat small versions on the original movie Masterpiece mold. Here's the thing though, yes the shape is more accurate, but it makes him look obese. Not that the midriff section helps, why do these stick out so badly? This was also a problem with the original and they had every opportunity to fix it, but apparently they chose not to. And no, that's not hyperbole. Take a look at the original Black Apple prototype for Thunder Leader. He already fixed the thing. Where's that Black Apple design prowess, huh, Weijiang? And you might be able to argue it was for the sake of stability if the chest was actually solid. Too bad it really isn't. The actual torso module is fine, but barely. You really have to stress the plastic in order to get everything to fit properly, which given the immensely flimsy materials is a pretty piss-poor design choice. And the midriff, mate, you got no chance with that These things barely remain in place, not to mention you have to deal with the horrid fold-in panels that refuse to stay out. Was there no way to have these clamp in? None at all? All of the groundwork on the original mold was already done. All the mistakes had already been made. All they had to do was fix them, but nope. Legitimately, in both proportions and solidity, the original 2009 leader class figure has a superior chest design. Nice clean window proportions, a nice hidden torso frame, and despite incorporating a slightly disappointing chest flex gimmick, it still manages to remain more solid, even when having to swap out for the Dark of the Moon design. For f***'s sake, this is pathetic. This is one of the problems with trying to take an antiquated 2009 prototype and ham-fist it into a modern masterpiece figure, regardless of Weijiang's changes. No matter which version you talk about, the original figure was designed for the gimmick, and trying to fit all the extra kibble inside the torso for the sake of accuracy is incredibly stupid. There's a reason why the chest sucks so bad though. Not an excuse, but definitely a reason. The head design though? No chance. What the happened to his face? It looks like he's been picking out on the pizza bagels for a few months. With the awfully wide cheeks juxtaposed against the squinting eyes. This right here is another thing they could have easily fixed from the original mold, but they chose not to. The problem was right there and Weijiang chose to ignore it. It baffles me once again how the original 2009 figure got this head sculpt not just right, but amazingly so, despite having to fit in a light gimmick and extra transformation joints. Yet this doesn't just fail once, but twice. And that's if you miss transforming. Weijiang's design actually makes this go far far lower than the original, which I assume is the correct version for this newer version. Jesus this sunken face looks even uglier. It looks like one of those pathetic Reddit faces. To quote the legendary progenitor of angry internet reviews, what were they thinking? And sure, I'm fully aware there's an upgrade kit that fixes some of these issues, but why should you need an upgrade kit to make this good? A good kit makes an already great figure better. It shouldn't be used as a crutch to fix the problems a company has left behind. No complaints to the designer of this head, as he did a phenomenal job, but for f***'s sake, stop being so forgiving because a fan made a solution for it. And beyond that, what's the point of making the head like this? To facilitate a face swap gimmick? Couldn't you have just done alternate faces? See, it's moments like these that show off the design philosophy of the figure. There are simple solutions to many of these problems, yet the designers on both ends take the most roundabout methods that just end up making things worse. Because of this, beyond the multitude of errors causing frustration, the reason behind most of them makes you even more angry. So, a shitty torso and a shitty head. How do the limbs fare? Well, the legs are disappointing as shit too. They aren't the worst, but they're far from great. I appreciate them trying to incorporate the wheel transformation that was allegedly cut from the 2009 leader, and although it's a bit finicky during transformation, the conversion isn't terrible. Hypothetically, this would be a wonderful addition, but oh look, stress marks. Not like I've been rough with these or anything, they're just toleranced woefully tight. Pathetic, man. And it's not like I've transformed this a bunch of times either. You'll recall that the transformation is a nightmare, so I've tried to avoid it as much as possible. After minimal handling, this is the end result. Jesus man, what a letdown. The lower legs are also rather disappointing. These aren't actually that bad, to be honest, and I do like the new transformation system, but why does it look bulkier now? With everything folding in far more, why does it look less dynamic than it used to? Ironically, in the pursuit of accuracy, they've moved further away from it than the mold the MPM is based on. Again, what we have here isn't bad, but it does mess with the aesthetic ever so slightly, and in conjunction with everything else, it just adds to the pile, along with the aforementioned chrome on the bottom of the feet. Calm the f*** on, man. Don't do this to people. This is going to chip faster than a packet of Red Rock Deli lime and black peppers. Legitimately, the only part of the robot mode that stands above the original is the arms. The new transformation on these is actually quite good, and the way they clean up is remarkable. Also nice that Weijiang has improved on their hand design since the MO1 days. Unfortunately, the leftover kibble just hangs on the sides of the chest and flops around pretty pathetically. As much as I dislike the original arms, if this is the sacrifice they had to make to improve them, it's not worth it. And ultimately, it all comes down to one undisputable fact. Takara should have made this a new mold from the ground up. None of the other Masterpiece figures had this restriction placed on them, but because Hasbro wants Takara to stay on budget, all of these figures end up being gimped in some capacity. This doesn't feel like a progression for the design, but rather a regression. Compare this to the Studio Series version. Is it preposterous to compare a retail figure to an expensive collector's item? No, not in this instance. When the collector's item is this bad, understanding what made the cheaper alternative work is paramount. This Prime was designed from the ground up, and it really shows. The refined modern engineering is clear when you handle this figure, even with the lower budget. Sure, it has faux pas, but the end result is infinitely better. Honestly, had they upscaled this version instead, which has actually been done, the end result would have been far better. And sure, this is the second attempt, but even so, you cannot deny the success that came from designing a new figure from the ground up.
And honestly, I'm baffled why no third party has attempted to tackle this design. Every other design of Optimus Prime seems more popular, despite the fact that the original trilogy design is a fan favorite. Yeah, the Bumblebee one, I get it. It's closer to G1. Of course, a lot of people are going to like that one. But why the f*** are there 3 Age of Extinction versions, yet not a single third-party attempt at the original trilogy? Can't Unique Toys take a crack at it? Their engineering seems like a prime
Oh,
candidate
but you see,
to-
Unique Toys is in a bit of a pickle. You know, after the whole
Oh, and I swear to God, if you interrupt me again, I'm... Anyway, onto the articulation. It's fine for a Masterpiece figure, I guess, but it doesn't feel like much of a step above the old leader. The only real thing of note that they've added is a waist swivel, which doesn't even function properly given the insanely frustrating clearance issues. Articulated figures? Other designs had that. Posable head? Every figure has a posable head these days. It's not much to think about. Thigh swivel? Yeah, they did attempt to fix it, but in the process, the thigh swivel ends up looking incredibly unnatural. Honestly, the fix I came up with delivered much better results than this figure. The poses you can get him in are fine, but not great, which is yet another thing that puts this outside the Masterpiece category. Not like the accessories help either. I like that the swords are separate, it's a smart choice, but honestly, they don't look that premium. They look cheap despite the lovely doses of gunmetal. The effects that they went for with the original design with the sprayed clear plastic had a much better outcome, and that toy costs $80 less than this. And the guns... Man, I don't know what to do with these. I cannot for the life of me get them to work. They're so ridiculously engineered that honestly, I just give up. I struggle with the transformation enough. I shouldn't have to bend over backwards just to get their transformation to work. Does this mean I may not be giving the figure a fair chance? Maybe, but either way, it's pretty
pathetic. All you needed was to make the guns separate. Even the original NPM did this. Why did Black Apple try to recreate Buster Prime but worse? Why did the chest get f***ed up? Why is the plastic trash? Why did Takara f*** with the head sculpt? Why is the transformation nightmare-inducing? Why is the vehicle mode cursed? Why is this figure dog shit? Look, I know I've shit on Earthrise Double Dealer for practically the entire year, but honestly, this is far worse. Amidst all the engineering and hollowness and parts forming on that infernal piece of plastic, at least there's a brief glimmer of passion. I simply don't sense that here. All I see in Thunder Leader is a cynical attempt to cash in on Bay fans' nostalgia, coupled with a KO company that got too big for its boots and stopped caring about the quality of the products it put out. This isn't Weijiang, or at least it wasn't. For years they've been delivering quality product after quality product, but this echoes a sense of laziness on both official and unofficial counts. More so than anything from mainline I've seen. This isn't Masterpiece. This isn't worthy of the name. In all honesty, the original 2009 leader is far more worthy of such a title. I would sooner buy 10 redecos of that mold than ever touch this infernal thing again. The only reason I could see people purchasing this is maybe because of its size. It's basically Commander class, and some people enjoy the height increase. I know I did back when I purchased the original MO1 Commander, but that was a Voyager going to a Commander. This is a far less noticeable difference. And even putting that aside, most Weijiang fans, and yes, they do exist, hello there, purchase these figures not for the size increase, but for the improvements. The wait for the KO mentality exists for a reason, and not just a monetary one. Weijiang, through their pedigree, established a track record of better figures, and many were willing to pay more to get more. This doesn't follow that design philosophy. It's a failure. And sure, many people will tell me that you can buy the Black Mamba version, or the Infinite Transformation version, or whatever KO hits the market, but it's ignoring the other half of the issue, the base mold. Hasbro and Takara are just as much at fault for this disastrous release as Weijiang were. The reason this piece sucks so bad is because everything around it has been so horribly mismanaged, so not one piece of this figure has been left to truly shine, save for maybe the vehicle mode, and if you want a good vehicle mode, then honestly the original leader more than truly has you covered. Honestly, this figure isn't worth the price tag, and certainly not worth the eBay prices he receives these days. In this instance, I am quite happy living in the past, for at least there's a sense of designer passion and quality in the craft. Out of all the Optimus Primes I've ever come across, none have been as disappointing as this, both official and unofficial. As a longtime Weijiang fan, this was one of the figures I was immensely excited for, doubly so considering its roots in one of my childhood favorites. But it's just so the robot mode and the materials are enough to give this a 2 out of 5, but considering I never want to go through that transformation again, yeah, the lowest score is required. I realize the structure of this review has been somewhat erratic compared to some of the more recent reviews I've done, but this figure is so shitty that it's trying my patience. Legitimately, this video hasn't been fun to make. It's been a pain in the ass. And considering this is a RoboToys video, I suppose I should offer some alternative to purchase from their store. Oh yeah, this video is brought to you by RoboToys. Use the code DrLockdown 10% off at the checkout for 10% off a single order, blah 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 blah. Here are a bunch of figures you can buy instead of this god-awful one, because please do not buy this. I don't even think this one's available anymore, so it doesn't really matter. But the point is, there are a bunch of other Optimus Primes you can buy over this one, so go out and buy those right now and ignore this thing! Suffice to say, there is no reason to get this figure at all. Just get a premium version of the original leader. You'll have a much better outcome. There are plenty on the market, and none of them have anything to do with the movie Masterpiece rendition, so it's a win-win situation. That kind of garbage has me concerned for the future of Weijiang. Their upcoming movie Masterpiece Ironhide release, well, I'm not really sure it's going to turn out that great. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not interested in that figure specifically, but I do understand that many people are, and they really should be putting a lot of effort
Listen, mate, they aren't doing Ironhide.
For the last time, I don't want to hear!
Weijiang's dead.
What?
Hasbro and the Chinese police raided the factory back in July. Black Apple, the whole management team, everyone
no,
arrested.
This isn't right. They can't. This is Weijiang we're talking about. The Weijiang.
Mate, I've been trying to tell you all episode. I'm not trying to be comic relief this time. Weijiang's dead.
Weijiang, they f***ing can't. It's their f***ing Weijiang.
I'm sorry, but it's finished. Company's gone. There's nothing I can do about it.
2020, in an understated manner, has been the absolute worst year of most of our lifetimes. Granted, times of war have likely been way worse, but let's be real here, on a channel about action figures, it's unlikely that much of my audience has lived through such events. On my end alone, I was temporarily fired, had 2 family members break their wrists, my aunt's apartment exploded, my university had its budget gutted, I lost passion for what I thought was my closest art form, and there's enough familial separation going around to cause 2 consecutive mental breakdowns. And if that's not enough, the company that practically got me back into Transformers to the extent that I did was essentially murdered. June 4th, knock knock, it's the mouse, and he's not happy. Weijiang's biggest factory gets raided in response to the production of a high-quality knockoff of Hot Toys Iron Man. Not particularly heroic of these bootleggers now, is it? But not to worry, although it was their largest factory, they still have other sites to use, and the core team is still perfectly alright. June 23rd, the entire Weijiang team is arrested. Hasbro has had enough of this nonsense. They are keenly aware of all those who would rather wait for the KO. It's getting to the point where Weijiang is actively biting into their sales, and they've had it. The remaining factories, management team, and even eventually Black Apple himself, all are shut down and or arrested. For all intents and purposes, Weijiang is dead. People like to say that these companies act like a Hydra, popping up under a new name in a new province. But when hit with something this harsh, I'm sorry, there's just no coming back. The entire founding team is gone. Toys using the Weijiang name have popped up in the months since, but given the circumstances, it's virtually impossible to have them be a revival of the company. Either these are leftover products from prior to the shutdown finally making it onto the market, or someone is just using the name for a kickstart to their success. This event was a shot heard around the world, and many companies have been affected by it. Weijiang was working on an original Journey to the West-based product, but since the shutdown, Tencent has acquired the rights and the molds, and will likely make a killing from these designs. Big Firebird got scared shitless and tried to distance their RC design from the G1 rendition. Given their recent work on official Chinese television, they likely wanted to be on the safe side of the law. TFC has adopted the practice of censoring the head design for their renders, so that Hasbro likely cannot sue them for using trademarked characters. Furthermore, they are collaborating with the Chinese government and designing a Transformer based on a real jet currently in service in the Chinese army, likely to curry favor if things go sour. So basically, they're the anti-Lego. Unique Toys is ceasing production on any and all movie masterpiece-styled figures going forward, with their upcoming Galvatron being their last release, and transitioning their designers to the Transcraft brand. Given that stepping into this market has proven volatile, they no longer feel comfortable filling that role. Whether they continue to produce figures under the Unique Toys name at all, or just rely on the Magic Square branch below them to deliver profits, remains to be seen. And then there's Fans Toys, with consistent rumors of ceasing operations. As of right now, it remains unlikely that they are actually going anywhere, but it does go to show you the game has changed. Companies cannot rely on pre-existing designs anymore. Nobody knows how far Hasbro is willing to go to protect their IP. Negligence in the past has opened the door to a myriad of unlicensed products, but going forward, it is likely possible that these companies will get shut down. Look, here is the harsh truth. I know nobody who collects third-party or knockoff Transformers wants to hear it, myself included, but this will eventually happen. One day, Hasbro will have had enough, the profit margins will get too close for comfort, and they will invest all they have into squashing these companies beneath their feet. Whether bootleg brands such as Black Mamba or heavy hitters such as X-Transbots, there unfortunately will come a time when they all get taken down. Or maybe to some people, that's a fortunate thing. We often forget, but third-party isn't as big within the community as we think it is. There are a good chunk of people who celebrate Weijiang's demise. And despite my personal grief towards the loss of this pillar, it changes nothing with the trajectory of the franchise. Third party could disappear forever, and many would celebrate it.
In all my years of collecting, I have never once come across a figure that has been this sad. So many years of memories, not just thrown away, but also shit upon. And to many, expressing grief isn't justified. You can't express your frustrations because apparently it is morally wrong to do so. How do we end up here? How the actual did we end up here? Not only is this toy the final will and testament of a prestigious KO company, but it's also a failure of one. It represents nothing the company is well known for, none of the class. All I see here is a company drunk on its own hubris. And in the end, it's just an insult to any fan of Weijiang. But here's the question. Why should we be forced to mourn the closure of this company when the wonderful memories along the way are far more important?
Taking it back again, the year is 2016. I'm slowly but surely getting back into Transformers. Retail distribution has been a bit shoddy, but I'm still making my way back into the community bit by bit. Launching off my recently rekindled interest, I start a YouTube channel on a whim. The podcast I'm running doesn't appear to be doing as well as I'd like, but I do love making YouTube videos, so I decide to make something that I have full control over. One small problem though, I'm basically broke. At the time, I'm working at a car wash that is deliberately paying below minimum wage, and if it's raining and there are no customers, well, I guess I'm not getting paid at all. On average, I'm getting about $200 a week, which is fine, I guess, because I'm still living at home, but after only being exposed to mainline combiner wars and second-hand Facebook sales, I crave something more substantial. Problem is, Masterpiece is at present way out of my budget. Then along comes discussions of a new type of knockoff, a Masterpiece rendition of a fan-favorite chug mold, the M01 Commander. And at the time, it's only $90. My word, that's something I most certainly need. And sure, it has its issues, such as the somewhat misguided redesign elements that Black Apple has applied, but to this day it remains a remarkable piece of knockoff design. I don't think it's a stretch to say that if it wasn't for this particular figure, I wouldn't be the fan I was today. And even throughout my collecting journey, Weijiang has always had a presence. To me, Rook and Robots in Disguise Optimus Prime will always be Voyagers. I cannot imagine these at the deluxe size without die-cast parts. Despite a few flaws here and there, I always find myself coming back to them for an enjoyable conversion experience. Is most of the work already done by the Hasbro designers? Am I maybe giving them too much credit? Yes, but on a personal level, I will always feel a sense of melancholy when thinking about Weijiang's conclusion. Ultimately, everyone's collecting journey is going to be different. Some feel obligated to stick to official figures, and that's fine. Others find joy in completing the Season 1 and 2 casts of the G1 cartoon through third-party Masterpiece, and that's also fine. And others don't have a lot of cash to spend on action figures, so they have to resort to KOs, and that's also fine. The diversity of stories within the fandom is part of what makes it so special, and also part of the reason why I started this channel. It's not just to present my opinions on specific toys, it's to catalogue my collecting journey, and in the process appreciate the toys that I come across, whether good or bad. No toy exists within a vacuum. Every figure stands atop layers and layers of context, design philosophies, and personal stories. So even with Weijiang gone, there are many stories to be told in the future, and hopefully we'll embark on them for years to come. So here's to 5 years of DrLockdown, and hopefully another great 5 years in the future. Although, I don't know why it'd stick with me, since my channel's pretty goddamn awful. Catch you later, Cybertronians, and remember this: toys aren't just toys, they're stories. So hold on to them, as it's one of the most important things this fandom has to offer.